You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. On today's show, we are going to hear from Cole Cubelic, sharing his thoughts on week one of the SEC. We'll also go around the conference. Tons of stuff to get into. We will get into all of that as we do, but I want to remind you guys that I am Chris Gordy. Be sure to follow Locked On SEC for free wherever you get your podcast. You get the latest episode of the show as soon as it comes out each and every day. And a quick reminder, the NFL season is about to begin. Nobody covers it like the Locked On Podcast Network. Check out the Ultimate Season Preview, take you through every team in every division. Ultimate Season Preview available on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's jump right into it.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Boots out to the right. Intercepted.
Takes the handoff.
Throws. What a catch.
Around the conference.
In the SEC, they released their players of the week, and leading the pack was Alabama quarterback Bryce Young in his first start for the Crimson Tide and Alabama's 44-13 victory over Miami. Young threw for almost 400 yards, 344 with 4 touchdowns. His first quarterback in Alabama history to throw for 4 touchdowns in his debut as a starter, surpasses the likes of Joe Namath and Mac Jones. SEC Defensive Player of the Week was Georgia DB Christopher Smith, had the only touchdown in the Georgia win over Clemson 10-3. Smith returned a 74-yard interception for a touchdown, also had 3 stops. Other winners included special teams. Will Reichard, the Alabama kicker, was outstanding. Defensive lineman Jordan Davis from Georgia and Zachary Carter over at Florida. Offensive line Kenyon Green over at Texas A&M and Luke Fortner at Kentucky. And your freshman of the week from the SEC, Debo Williams, linebacker, South Carolina, and Caden Costa, the kicker for Ole Miss, stepping right as the freshman doing his thing. Another SEC news, Luke Doty trying to make his way back after that foot injury he suffered in fall camp. The South Carolina quarterback met with reporters on Tuesday and offered an update on how his foot feels. He said, quote, "I feel like I'm pretty close." He mentioned there's a slight chance he could have played last week. Some progress remains, but they think there's a chance he could return this Saturday. He said, quote, "I'm definitely expected to be 100% by this Saturday's game." Coach Shane Beamer has said he won't name a starter ahead of the game at East Carolina, but Doty, for his part, praised Zeb Nolan last week, said he did a fantastic job. So we'll see if Luke Doty is back or if the legend of Zeb Nolan continues for yet another week. Over at LSU, as if they needed any more bad news, Coach Ed Orgeron, talking to the media yesterday, said they've got some injuries that they're having to deal with. Said 5 Tigers will miss this weekend's game against McNeese. They'll be without 2 starting offensive linemen in Austin Deculus and Cam Wire. In addition, they will be missing wide receiver John Trey Kirkland and defenders Ali Gay and Sony Fanua. So some big names LSU having to play without this week. Of course, they play McNeese State, so shouldn't be a big issue. But, man, injuries piling up on top of the big loss to UCLA this past week. No word on what the injuries may be, but Orgeron also announced linebacker Jared Small is out for the season. So lost there, a guy who impressed throughout fall camp for LSU. And defensive back Jay Ward, he is doubtful for Saturday, but we'll know more later in the week. Over in Missouri, head coach Eli Drinkwitz kind of trying to lower expectations for the Tigers after their win over Central Michigan on Saturday, preparing for Kentucky. Eli Drinkwitz says he wants people to tap the brakes when it comes to comparing his program to Kentucky. He said, making a comparison between the two programs right now is a little bit early because Kentucky head coach Mark Stoops has been in Kentucky and recruiting there for 10 years. He also said this weekend's game will be a good test to see how much the Tigers have developed. So that's going to be a really good one this weekend, Mizzou against Kentucky. Over at Alabama, Henry To'oTo'o transferred from Tennessee to Alabama this offseason, already having an impact on his new team. He had 7 tackles in the win over Miami over the weekend, second leading tackler on the team. And To'oTo'o spoke with the media yesterday saying the opportunity to play for Nick Saban is what drew him to Tuscaloosa. He said, quote, "Who doesn't want to play for Coach Nick Saban?" To'oTo'o briefly left Saturday's game with an elbow injury, but seems to be okay coming back from that. Over at Auburn, wide receiver Demetrius Robertson was once a Georgia Bulldog, also played with the Cal Golden Bears, now found his home in Auburn. He talked with the media yesterday and talked about what it was like making the switch to Auburn and how he's still friendly with some of his old teammates at Georgia. He said the reason why he left Georgia was that it was a better opportunity for him at Auburn. He said, Coach Brian Harsin mostly. He's a really great person. He went on to say that Harsin is there to push his players, make them a better person and a better athlete. So Demetrius Robertson, a big buyer into what Coach Brian Harsin is selling so far. Over at Vanderbilt, we know they had a rough outing over the weekend, losing to East Tennessee State 23-3 to open their season. But there was a report coming out from Football Scoop that says the Commodores shifted roles on their offensive staff leading up to that game, just days before its first game of the Clark Lee era. Vanderbilt shook up its offensive staff hierarchy. Commodores preparing to lean on passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach Joey Lynch for greater input and a chief role in the offensive execution. But it appears the shift is away from David Raya, who came to Vanderbilt from the Arizona Cardinals, to Lynch, who was hired from Colorado State. Lynch has spent his previous 7 seasons as an offensive coordinator at the FBS level. Person with direct knowledge of the situation told Football Scoop they're going with the quarterbacks coach basically as the offensive coordinator. Raya can coach, but the fit is better with Lynch. So already drama at Vanderbilt after 1 week. And lastly, ESPN sideline reporter Tom Luganbill, he went on a Birmingham sports show Tuesday morning, had a lot to say about what he saw in the Oklahoma against Tulane game. He did not hold back on his criticism of the Sooners and Heisman Trophy frontrunner Spencer Rattler. He said that Oklahoma was outcoached and outplayed, but he said, this may shake a few fans, that Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral is better than Spencer Rattler right now. So according to Tom Luganbill, friend of the show, Matt Corral kind of in the driver's seat right now after week 1 as far as the Heisman Trophy favorite, or rather hierarchy. Bryce Young, Matt Corral, kind of both up there. And that is around the conference. When we return, we're going to talk with our buddy Cole Cubelic, or at least let you hear from him. He had a conversation with our buddy Matt Moscona, Locked On LSU, prior this week. It is that time of year again, and all eyes are turning to college football as teams are back on the gridiron. As always, BetOnline, your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. Get all the updated odds, props, and contests. Head over to their website. You can do so on your mobile device. Sign up today. Receive a 100% welcome bonus. Be sure to take advantage of all their great things they got going on there. We use our promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON. Again, first-time user, you will get that 100% welcome bonus. They got a deal going on this Thursday for the start of the NFL season. Cowboys and Bucks. If you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25. You can get into that promo using the promo code NFL100. BetOnline, they got you covered with football, basketball, boxing, even your favorite Vegas casino games. They have got it all for you. They are the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Please go check them out right now. If you haven't done so already, you're already a week behind as far as college football goes. But BetOnline.ag, BetOnline, they're your online sportsbook experts. Need to also tell you about our friends over at Stat Hero. Do you know 85% of people who play daily fantasy sports lose? Is it really that surprising? The game is rigged against you. You're playing against thousands of other lineups, not to mention experts out there who have more tools and more time than you do. You don't stand a chance. Go check out Stat Hero. It is the first ever daily fantasy sports book that puts the player in control and winning within reach. Here's how it works. Stat Hero shows you their lineups and dares you to beat them. It is you versus the house in a head-to-head fantasy matchup. You name your stakes, winner take all. You have the advantage. Stat Hero is showing you their lineups ahead of time. Nobody else does that. You're in total control. Stat Hero is DFS the way it was meant to be, one-on-one. Play Stat Hero now and change the odds. Go to stathero.com/lockedon. You sign up for free. And right now you can get 3 times back on your first play. They're giving you a 300% match. That's unheard of. Go to stathero.com/lockedon. Stathero.com/lockedon. Rolling along here, Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy here with you. And our buddy Matt Moscona, host of Locked On LSU. He's also the host of After Further Review on 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge. And yesterday he caught up with Cole Cubelic, of ESPN, the SEC network, also has his own radio show on Jocks FM in Birmingham, and some really good stuff on Cole Cubelic reflecting on week one around the SEC. So I figured we would let you guys hear some of it. First up, Cole and Matt talked about LSU's problems in week one that they displayed on Saturday. And Matt asked, how fixable are LSU's mistakes they displayed in the loss to UCLA? Here was Cole Cubelic.
The majority of what I saw is repairable. First and foremost, let me just say for folks who are angry and frustrated because it's UCLA or a Pac-12 team, anything like that, keep in mind this is a team that has 12 seniors starting on defense. Yes, I said 12 because there is a reserve that they can bring in that's another senior that can potentially be a starter. And offensively, you got a veteran offensive line that's pretty physical. And I'd put it up against Coastal Carolina as the coolest run scheme in college football. I mean, what Chip is doing with that run game is phenomenal. And he took that scheme and he added it to an absolute formation clinic that he put on display Saturday night. You're not going to get that each and every week with a team that has a mobile quarterback, that has experience, with two good running backs and a capable offensive line. It's just you're not going to get it that way each and every week. You know the circumstances that they went through to get there and play. New defensive coordinator, you have a JUCO linebacker, a transfer linebacker. You had some guys banged up in the secondary during the game. You had to make some rotations. So some of that can all get into place. You can work that out and have more time to adjust, figure out what guys are good at, not good at, and what not to call. Sometimes what not to call is more important than what to call. And it takes you a few games to sort of get used to that. So now some of the business decisions that I saw guys making, I don't know if you can repair that. Like, that's on the guy. That's not on. I mean, that I can go yell at somebody and tell you to make a tackle all day, but that doesn't mean you're going to go do it. I mean, that's a individual decision. So some of the protection stuff on the offensive line concerned me a little bit. Not being able to get pushed in the run game, a little bit concerning. I mean, that's not going to happen next week or the next 2 weeks. That's going to take some time. You got to rep that to really be able to get that and understand that. But I think you also have to view some of the positives: quarterback, wide receiver. I think that there were some good things that the defensive line did. Still having to play some young guys there, but I would say the majority of what I saw are not things that you cannot overcome within the college football season.
Next up, Cole Cubelic with Matt Moscona, of course, our host of Locked On LSU on his ESPN Baton Rouge radio station. He was asked, should we be concerned at all about Georgia's offense, and does Florida have a quarterback controversy on their hands? Here was Cole Cubelic.
Not right now. I mean, just go down the schedule. I mean, they're going to get a pretty good UAB team this week. Not really going to matter. They'll get Florida in the middle of the season. I mean, depending on what Dan does with his quarterbacks. And, I mean, are they going to have a wide receiver emerge? I didn't really see one. I was on the field Saturday night. Now, if 15 gets going and they make him the guy and he can figure some things out, just everybody better watch out, because he has something that not a lot of kids I've seen play in that position have. I mean, and I'm not saying that, he's going to be Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton or anything like that. I'm not making any comps. I'm just telling you, physically, he is extremely gifted. And to be 245, I said it on the broadcast, the most impressive thing I saw Anthony Richardson do all night, he led the team in rushing, 160-some yards, was, but they're in warm-ups, they warm up in helmet. They don't warm up full pads. And he goes out there when they're flipping sides to warm up, like from the 50 down to the end zone, and he does this like round off back handspring in his helmet, and he was about 5.5 feet off the ground. I was like, good God, who is that? And then I see the 15 on his little T-shirt, and I was like, okay, that's the backup quarterback. We're dealing with something a little different here. But he's special as far as just physically what he's capable of doing. So, I mean, that one could be tricky, because I think the defensive line is going to be better. They address the middle of it. They got 2 Auburn D tackles in there. They got a Penn State D tackle in there. They got a freshman in Trevon Dexter, who I think can be pretty good. They got the big 400-pounder that may be able to get in shape a little bit more so across the course of the season, give you some reps. Second level, solid. They got some versatility. Secondary is going to be young. If you can throw the ball, you'll probably be able to take advantage of that on them. But, I mean, until we get – and then what's after that? I mean, until we get to Alabama in the SEC championship game, I don't know how much I'd be concerned about it with what's in front of them. And I thought they could have run the ball more. I thought they were just throwing the ball to prove to people that they could throw it because everybody's been mad at them from running it. But I thought Brent was giving them run looks, and the offensive line wasn't terrible, and the backs were running super hard. So if you can play that game and your defense is that good as we saw Saturday afternoon or Saturday night, then, I mean, you'll be all right for a while. You got Darnell Washington coming back. He'll be able to help you out. You know, John Fitzpatrick's going to get closer to 100%. He'll be able to help you out. So I'm not overly concerned about it right now. Not if that defense keeps looking like they looked the other night.
A little bit more from our buddy Cole Cubelic talking with Matt Moscona. He was asked any other takeaways from some of the SEC action over the weekend.
Texas A&M, Haynes King throws the ball better than I thought. That kid can absolutely rip it. Now, what's coming with that, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there, he is a risk taker. It is blatantly obvious when you watch him operate, is there are times when he has no regard for what he should not do, and he probably knows he should not do it, but he's going to do it anyway. That can get you in a lot of trouble. But I tell you, any kid would love to play in the toy chest of toys that Jimbo Fisher has on offense this year. Some of the two tight end stuff that they can run, move guys around, Smith, A-Chain, Weidermeyer. I mean, that is a cool collection of gadgets, and it's going to be very difficult to defend. Kenyon Green being at right tackle was a little bit weird as well. I didn't really anticipate that. Auburn, I think you're excited because Bo Nix actually stayed in the pocket. Like, he took a drop, stepped up in the pocket, and delivered a few throws. I don't know if we've seen that for a few years. So he actually looked like a quarterback at times, and that's a big step for him. I understand it's Akron, but I don't understand why the people get mad at the teams who take care of their business against the teams that they're supposed to take care of their business against. Like, Auburn put up 60. I've seen Auburn go to overtime against Jacksonville State.
Right.
Like, they handled their business. The offensive line looked a little better. The front seven was active. They got numbers on the back end. They did what they were supposed to do. Tank was Tank. He lived up to what he was supposed to live up to. So out of those games, those would be, Arkansas, I think I was a little troubled with some of the drops that Treylon Burks had. I thought running back looked great. Offensive line looked pretty good. They're going to have some consistency problems at quarterback. That's what it is. Not super athletic on defense, but they're going to make you earn everything you get. And that's kind of, they struggled a little bit out of the gate. I think some of that was on quarterback. I think some of it's going to be, Kendall trying to figure out exactly how to call it in game or what's really going to work. But, I think they're going to be a tough out again this year. I don't think they're going to win a ton of games. They're going to be a tough out almost every week.
More from Cole Cubelic with Matt Moscona right after this. Need to remind you guys about Built Bar. What is your favorite Built Bar flavor? 9 delicious flavors for you to try. Of course, the mint brownie is my favorite. I tell you guys that all the time, but raspberry, cherry, coconut almond, coconut, peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, something for everybody. And if you want to try them all, the easiest way to do it is get a mixed box at their website, builtbar.com. You'll get 2 of each of the 9 flavors, and you can find which one is your favorite. I guarantee you're going to find one that you like. Many of the flavors are healthy for you. They are packed with protein, 17, 18 grams of protein packed in there, only 130 calories, 4 grams sugar, 4 grams net carbs. They are the best tasting protein bars out there, and they are healthy for you as well. Order them today. You can get the raspberry, the mint brownie, whatever you like at BuiltBar.com. Just go to their website. Use our promo code LOCKED15. If you never ordered from them before, use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your first order when you use that promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. I'm telling you guys right now, if you're out at the tailgates and you're looking for something, you've already gorged, but you need something to kind of hold yourself over while you're walking to the stadium, whatever, a Built Bar is a great, healthy alternative. Go check them out right now, BuiltBar.com. BuiltBar.com. Going along here, Locked On SEC, and really enjoying hearing this conversation of Cole Cubelic of the ESPN, the SEC Network, and Jocks FM. He joined our buddy Matt Moscona, host of Locked On LSU, and talking all things SEC with him on his radio show on 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge. So I figured we'd get back to a little bit more of that conversation. And we start with Cole talking with Matt about Dan Mullen, his interview with him after the game, asking about his two quarterbacks.
Well, I asked him if he had a timeline on when he needed to name a starter, because I thought, and I think everybody else that watched that game who's like a normal football fan said to themselves, oh, damn, there's not a clear-cut starter right now. I mean, you had 6'5", 245 hurdling guys. There was a linebacker on one play that comes up and hits him, wraps him up, and falls off of him. The kid's body didn't change. Like his upright posture in which he was running, like it didn't go left, it didn't go right, it didn't go up or down. Like he just kept running on the exact same path. And I'm like, okay, like this is different. And I thought the guys around him were different. No one in that stadium did not think that offense was not operating different when 15 was in the game. It just was. It just looked different. So my thought was, are you going to make a clear-cut decision moving forward? And that's why I asked the question that I did. And, that's why he gave me, Emory Jones, our starter. All right, but I probably should have followed up, is the competition back open?
Right.
And he would have told me something like, well, we compete every day. Listen, Dan's the best deflector in the SEC. Kirby's the best dancer in the SEC. Dan's the best deflector in the SEC. Like everybody makes fun of him because he gives you the facial expressions and the quirky answers. Well, he's doing it for a reason. It's because he knows that takes away the focus of what actually probably needed to be said, and he's going to do that instead. So he knows what he's doing, and I'm fine with it. I mean, I don't think he was mad at it. I'm not mad at it, but they got a quarterback competition. That's the reality.
Cole also touched on his post-game interview with Florida quarterback Emory Jones.
I'm going to post the interview I did with Emory Jones a little bit later on Twitter today. It may have been my favorite post-game interview I've ever done with any coach or player because of the way that young man handled himself. It was so mature. It was so real. It was so genuine. And I just think he deserves a lot of credit for how he handled it, what he said and how he said it. But this is the way I would lay it out. They're not beating Alabama with him. They might be able to get Alabama with 15. They might be able to get Georgia with 15. They might be able to get LSU with 15. He is going to take you to a place that I'm just not sure Emory Jones can take you. Now, all the other teams and all the other stuff that needs to be done, and he might not do those other things to even put you in a position to get those games, but I know you're going to have the special things that he might bring to even have a chance to beat some of those other teams on your schedule.
Lastly, Cole Cubelic talking with Matt Moscona. Cole talks about Ole Miss winning the game the other night without Lane Kiffin, but he says Jeff Lebby calling the plays is a big reason why they were able to get the job done.
I put Jeff Lebby up against anybody in college football, man. Calling plays. Dude's got it. He has the it factor when it comes to calling plays, having a feel, having a rhythm, just knowing where to go, how to do it. He's fine. They are fine from that perspective. Now, let's be honest. Lane has a little bit of an aura. I mean, he is one of the most recognizable faces in college football. From an adjustment standpoint, I do think Lane might be better than anybody offensively in college football. Like in game, being able to go find something that he sees and put it in right away and then go do it and make it work, that's where he is super special. And I think Matt Corral has enough around him with Plumlee and Ely and Sanders and those guys and a pretty good offensive line that they're going to be just fine.
That again, Cole Cubelic joining our buddy Matt Moscona of Locked On LSU, and then also on 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge. And Cole does a tremendous job, of course, on the SEC Network, ESPN, and Jocks FM, and great insight into the SEC in week one. That is just about going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Appreciate you guys for listening and subscribing. If you missed any of our other conversations from this week, great conversation earlier with Ben Troop, Florida Gators tight end. If you missed that, I encourage you to go check it out on the podcast or on our YouTube page. That's right, we're on video now on YouTube. Just search Locked On SEC and you will find us there. Need to remind you guys, too, betting on the SEC does not have to be a guessing game. If you listen to the new Locked On Bets podcast with Lee Sterling and your boy Q, get Lee's lock of the day. Follow the Locked On Bets podcast brought to you by BetOnline.ag, wherever you get your podcast. I'm Chris Gordy. That's going to do it for me. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow right here on Locked On SEC, getting you guys ready for week 2, starting to turn the page. We'll talk to you then.